let's face it, Christmas and chocolate, they sort of go together pretty well, don't they? It's time to talk tech. We will do that with Matthew Dickinson, and coming up right after this. And in fact, we'll do it now. We'll go straight to Matthew. Tech Guru, good morning to you.
I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Michael. Chocolate and Christmas. I thought chocolate went with everything, including technology.
True, indeed, it does, doesn't it? And of course, we should mention Easter as well. Chocolate is synonymous with that other festival. You're obviously a lover of
I have
chocolate.
a bit of a weakness there, Michael. Why not chocolate with Easter? Why not chocolate with Christmas? It just should be chocolate with every day, I think.
All year round, hey?
Seems
look,
reasonable.
and we're here. We're here to talk tech. So, if you've got any new technology that you want to share with us, give us a ring 1300 800 222. Every day they're launching new products, and you scratch your head and go, "Wow, who thought of that?" 1300 800 222. The next text number 0437 774 774. Matthew has put together something called the 5G for Christmas. In other words, the Great Geek Gadget Gift Guide. We'll read a few of the things that are out on that, but give us a ring, 1300 800 222. Thank you. Yes, Old Bar is on the coast east of Taree near Forster. Thank you for that. Can you tell me, Matt, about these high-tech glasses, exactly what they are? They're called Dolphin's Delight, and so you'll never lose your glasses again with these, is that right?
That's exactly right. Now, we've talked before, Michael, about Bluetooth trackers. They're becoming more and more common. They've been out for around a decade now, or even more than that. And you see them in various shapes. I won't go through different brand names, but they're devices that look like about the size of, say, a 50-cent coin or a 20-cent coin, and they're quite convenient. You put them in your luggage, you put them in your handbag, your teddy bears, whatever you don't want to lose. But there are some people who tend to put their glasses down and then, where are my glasses? And they can't find them. But these Bluetooth trackers in the past have been a bit too big, a bit embarrassing if you hang one of these things off your glasses. So people still put their glasses down and lose them. Yeah. But obviously, people have worked out that maybe we need some sort of Bluetooth trackers for glasses. So that's exactly what these are. And I will mention some brand names for these products because obviously they're very specific. So these are a Dolphin Smart Spec Finder. Essentially, they're a Bluetooth tracker, good, well-established technology, but they've been built into a package that's small enough that they can stick onto the side arm of your glasses.
Oh, so it's not the actual glasses, it's just something you stick on them.
Exactly right. So your normal glasses that you wear now, they can be your sunglasses, they can be your reading glasses, whatever they are, they'll stick on the side. The idea here is obviously the same as a normal Bluetooth tracker. You can actually say, where are they? You pull out your phone, open up the app and make them make a noise, so then you can be directed to those glasses, or you can see them on a map and see actually where they are. Oh, no, I left them down at my workplace. I'll have to go down there and get them rather than at home, for example. But the beauty of it is very much a small, little, tiny device that you stick on the side, rechargeable battery. You charge them probably once a month to keep it going, and that's probably the main downside. Bluetooth trackers typically give you a couple of years out of the battery, but they're larger. These ones are a bit smaller, and that's the main thing they've saved the space on is the actual battery itself. But they've got an alarm that's 85 dB, so you're going to be able to hear them pretty much anywhere in the house if you can't find them there.
That's quite loud, I would have thought. And yeah, handy thing, we've all lost our glasses plenty of time, so nice if we could find them easy, because usually when you lose these things, Matthew, it's when you're in a hurry to go somewhere.
Always. I've just got to go out the door. Oh, my glasses, I can't find them anywhere.
Is there any chance they're going to develop a tracker for odd socks? You know, those socks that go missing. Will we get one of them?
Well, they've got them now, but they're probably so expensive to make them waterproof and thin enough that it's probably cheaper to buy a new pair of socks.
Indeed. Also, you've got some other things here. I'm intrigued also by this digital tape measure that's apparently all the rave now, where I think you just point it at something and it'll tell you exactly how far away it is. Is that right?
You've got some ones like that. And in fact, I'm a bit concerned about this particular idea that I've got for you because it's almost too practical. I like to be things that are a little bit less practical than this one. But you've got ones that you can actually just hold back against an item and you can press a button and it sends out some sound waves and it will give you the distance. They've been around for a little while now and they're quite handy. I actually use one myself when I'm doing stuff around the house. But this one here was created by a gentleman who was trying to be much more practical. It was actually an American guy who found it really difficult because a lot of the things he was working on were metric and, of course, America's still imperial. So he had a bit of a problem converting the imperial to the metric, and even though it's laid out on the tape measure there, he still had a bit of a trouble. So he created this tape measure that looks like a normal tape measure. You pull out the actual tape measure, you've got a nice yellow, it always seems to be yellow, tape measure itself with all the markings on there. But when you pull that out, it also gives you the digital readout on the screen itself in either imperial or metric. And then you think, well, you surely can do a bit more than that with it. So when you pull that out and measure something, it also gives you the midpoint with the assumption that maybe you're trying to hang something on the wall, you're trying to get something where you're putting from A to B, and then I want to get the midpoint on where I'm going to put a painting or hang something on the wall. And then it also keeps the last 3 measurements in its memory. So when you sit down then to get the drill out and get, what was that measurement again? I can't quite remember. So you can just press the button on there and pull up the last 3 measurements. So quite a good mix between the old and the new.
Doesn't sound that fancy. I mean, it's basically just a calculator. It's replacing the calculator, because if you know the distance, you can work out the midpoint pretty easy
Well,
enough
you
there.
can, but it's a bit harder when it's an imperial 7 feet 3 and a bit inches.
Yeah.
What's the halfway point on that? It gets a bit more complicated.
You get your calculator out and you work out that you convert from imperial to... Anyway, whatever. I'm sure it's a winning design and a great product to have. I'm sure you're going to get one as well. Another one here that you've got, which is quite interesting, I mentioned before, was the home drone. I don't know if I'm ever going to get one of these, but I suppose people would like to have a drone that they can fly around their house when they're not there.
Well, this is the thing. Home security is getting more and more sophisticated now, and people are putting cameras around their home, and it gets expensive when you start putting cameras in every room. You don't want to put cameras in the bedrooms, obviously. That gets a bit intrusive. But when you're away, you might be interested in what's happening around the home. So this is the home drone. That's exactly right. It's the Ring Always Home Cam. And essentially, it's a little autonomous drone. You set it up, put the actual base somewhere out, maybe in the lounge room, out in the middle of your house somewhere, and the drone itself lifts up and you program 50 different flight paths. So it'll pick up, fly around the home at random times, recording the footage as it goes, and then you can either look at that in the cloud, you can look at that on your phone live, or obviously it's all recorded there in case something does happen. And then if you do think something happens, you might have a home alarm set up as well, and you think something might be on, you can actually connect to it and then manually fly your drone from wherever you might be on holiday. So around the holiday season, not a bad way just to give a bit of extra security around your home, and again, just that way to make you feel a bit more relaxed while you're out on the beach or watching the cricket or whatever it might be.
Aren't we knocking things off the mantelpiece or bumping into things that we shouldn't be? I mean, you have to be a pretty good drone pilot.
Well, no, of course, all these drones now have got some sensors in them, and they'll detect where they are and make sure they don't run into things. They can actually learn your house, so they know where to go around the house, not to fly into walls, that type of thing. And they're not perfect. I remember when I got my first drone a few years ago and I took it out and I set it up to follow my car. I thought I'll do this cool thing out here in the paddock and I'll drive along and have my car being followed. And it wasn't great at detecting leaves on a tree, so I crashed it within about 30 seconds of putting it up there. So they're not perfect, but around a house, they're fairly solid things, so they should be able to avoid obstacles around the house.
You sure we're not blaming the pilot, the driver in that one, Matthew?
Possibly.
It was a big tree. Love to hear from you this morning. If you've got any fancy new tech gadgets, 1300 800 222 is the number to call. Of course, the text number is 0437774774. Especially if you're given that one for Christmas or you're considering it, give us a ring or send us a text. Love to hear from you.
ABC Sports coverage of Test cricket returns.
What about that? Unbelievable!
The sound of summer.
Drives beautifully through extra cover for 4.
Hear it live and ad-free.
Now there's some power there. That's the big appeal, and the finger eventually goes up.
Australia v Pakistan, December 14.
Gone for 4! Australia have won!
Right here on your radio, ABC Sport Digital. And take it with you on the ABC Listen app.
Yeah, 1300 800 222 is the number. If you've got any tech gadgets or you've seen some, love to hear from you. 1300 800 222. You might have a thought on ChatGPT as well, because I'm going to ask Matthew all about that, because it's 1 year since ChatGPT was launched, Matthew, and just one of the new technologies that we've had to come to terms with this year. Have you got any thoughts on ChatGPT and just how pervasive it has become across society?
Just be very nice when you talk about it, Michael, because it will take over the world and we want to make sure it's nice to us when it does take over the world. It is quite fascinating, and it's certainly progressed dramatically over the last year. One of the things that certainly it's gotten better at is more up-to-date information. So initially, the data was several years old, so the data that had actually ingested to then be able to give you information back. It's gotten better in terms of now, if you do that search, it'll go back to April 2023, but also it's got a live real-time version, which is a bit slower than the normal ChatGPT, but it will give you that information. But one of the things that's fascinating about it, because it's a natural language tool, it's not always that accurate. And I actually looked up something very simple the other day. I wanted to find something about an RFDS base, a Royal Flying Doctor Service base, and I just searched when was that opened, and it gave me the year 1994. And I actually thought it was a bit later than that. And so I said, are you sure about that? I thought it was a bit later. My apologies, it came back with, actually the year was 1999, and gave more details about that. So it does make mistakes like that are pretty basic mistakes that a human wouldn't make, but at the same time, gee, it can engage with so much information and give you back a summary of that information in a pretty comprehensive format.
And it apologises.
It apologises. I actually feel sometimes I go, oh no, I'm actually interacting like it's a human, because I actually find myself saying please and thank you, and I've gone, it's just a computer. Do I really need to be so polite? But again, when it takes over the world, I want to make sure it remembers that I was polite to it.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. That's okay. No worries.
One of the things I think it's most useful for is older information and a summary. So if you're trying to work out some complicated concept, or maybe how a chemical reaction works, or what's the process in when an airbag goes off in a car, can you explain that to me? It's really good at gathering all that information that's older and available information and giving you a concise summary of that. Whereas if you search with that, normally you're just looking at different websites where individual sites are giving you individual information, whereas ChatGPT has looked at all that information to give you that summary. So I do find it quite useful along those lines.
Yeah, look, and things like, though, when you hear students and teachers whinging about it, teachers particularly saying they're not sure if the students are actually writing the essays or ChatGPT is these days. So you can see that there's concerns in some sections of society with this technology.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, there's a weekly podcast I do, Michael, and I actually do it with a science teacher, a head science teacher is my co-host on that. And we've been talking about this a lot over the last year. And a year ago when we were talking about it, the logic from this particular school teacher was, well, it's easy. I'll go and ask ChatGPT the question that I'm about to set for an assessment. I'll have the answer. So I'll say to the kids, here's the answer from ChatGPT. I don't want to see an answer that's the same as this. But we tried a bit of an experiment. We went and said to ChatGPT, give me an assessment answer for this question, and we did it 5 times. And it came out with 5 different answers, not dramatically different. The information was still correct, but it was written slightly differently each time. So it's not as if it's going to give you an identical answer every time. So picking up on when ChatGPT had actually been used was a lot harder. So that was the first problem. And then as the year went in, I think the idea and the attitude from educators, university educators, school educators has changed slightly. This is being used in the workforce. Should we maybe say, well, let's get kids using it and taking advantage of it, but make sure you know the limitations of it? So is that a better attitude than just saying you cannot possibly use it, because it's pretty hard to police that as well?
Yeah, impossible to police, I would have thought. And as you say, it is getting used in the workforce more and more. I think there was an article during the week about the amount of News Corp articles that have been generated by ChatGPT and actually hadn't been written by journalists.
Yeah.
Then I heard someone say that actually the quality of journalism had improved in a lot of the News Corp papers because of that.
Well, I had a funny situation. My son's just recently finished his computer science degree, and he was applying for some jobs, and he had his first interview, and I said, well, look, with my background, my darling son, do you want a hand from your dad? And of course he said, oh no, Dad, I know what questions are going to be asked, because I went to ChatGPT and said, what questions will be asked in an interview? And so I thought, well, I'll help you with the answers, because surely I can be of some use to my son still. And he said, don't worry. I then asked ChatGPT the answers to the questions that it told me were going to be asked. So I'm all under control. Thanks very much, Dad.
Look, if it's any consolation, we tried this a little bit out with the band I play, and we tried to put a few ideas in there to see if ChatGPT could write a song. Oh, it wasn't pretty, I'll tell you, Matthew. And I believe it's the same with poetry. There was a whole lot of stand-up comedians, with stand-up comedy. ChatGPT just cannot write a joke as well. They tried to get it to write some humorous stuff, and
It was
quite
very
get it.
much, when I've tried that, it's very much dad jokes is the way I'd describe it. So
Not even.
not very good dad jokes, that's right.
No.
One of the things you can pick up if ChatGPT has been used typically is ChatGPT doesn't have a lot of personal experience. So it can't say, last time you and I were on the radio, Michael, we talked about, and go from there. So you can pick up ChatGPT a bit. Sometimes I've seen things written and I think, I reckon ChatGPT was used there because it's very clinical, it's very factual, but it just doesn't bring in the personal or something where you might have some sort of experience, because guess what? ChatGPT hasn't had that personal experience of going down to the shops at 5:29 and the shop just closed and talking about those sort of stories. So it's something you can pick up on. It doesn't have that, but who knows? It might start to bring in that sort of personal experience in inverted commas as it develops.
Yeah, I'm a bit cynical whether that could actually happen, because I think that's the human element to humour and to life that perhaps computers are never going to be able to reproduce. But that's just my opinion. I've got here, do you think we could use ChatGPT for your quiz? I'm sure you could, if you tried hard enough. I got this one as well. Could ChatGPT be abused by scammers and hackers?
It already is. It's being absolutely used for that purpose. Sometimes when we see some people that have a language other than English as their first language, some of the scams you see come through are written poorly. And so you can normally pick up that that wasn't written by someone that was legitimate in terms of asking for your details, etc. But now they're using things like ChatGPT to get the grammar and the spelling done right. So if I'm a scammer with a language other than English and I try and write those little scams, then I just feed it into ChatGPT and I say, check the grammar and spelling for me. So straight away they're getting something back a bit cleaner.
Because that was one way of identifying fake emails. You could definitely tell it was fake because the English wasn't written properly, so it's obviously come from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right.
So now you're saying they're working a way around that.
Oh, absolutely right. And so they're using it for that, but also they're using it to try and work out ways that might be able to be targeted. In other words, using a bit of psychology in there and asking ChatGPT what one of these two different emails would be more attractive to someone, in other words, which would be more likely to entice someone. So just things like that, they're using ChatGPT already to try and trick us.
Gee whiz. Ian wanted to say, can ChatGPT identify the owner of fake Facebook page accounts?
Yeah, probably a bit harder from that perspective. ChatGPT is a natural language tool, so what that means is it's taking all the data that's ingested across the internet and then using natural language. So it's looking for language patterns in there, identifying a fake user. Again, that's where humans can still be of some use in society, Michael, where you're saying that doesn't look quite right because the photo of that person on social media is not looking like a real photo, or someone puts up a bit of half of their head, or what they're saying in there doesn't seem quite right. You're using some intuition in all of that. So I think ChatGPT is going to struggle with a bit of that. But again, it's very early days. You're talking about a 1-year anniversary. This is very early days for this technology.
I mean, you think it could be used the other way as well, for good instead of evil. For example, for trying to identify hackers, or you could be asking questions for it to search out and do some research that the authorities or the police can help or can be useful.
Well, AI is certainly being used for identifying deep fakes. When someone creates a deep fake, so they've got some image of you, they put some words in your mouth, and next thing you know, there's a video of Michael saying some horrendous things out there on the internet, and people are saying, oh, that's Michael Pavlich. We thought he's a nice guy, but look what he said here, and there's a video to prove it. And they're using AI to actually detect whether or not that is a deep fake created video, or in fact, Michael has gone out and said some terrible things. And one of the ways they're doing that, for example, is they're looking at the blood flow in someone's face when they're talking. A deep fake won't have any blood flow, a pulse, if you like, going through the face, whereas a real human talking, you can detect very subtly just some blood flow going through someone's face as their heart beats.
Just from a camera?
From a camera, that's exactly right, yeah. In fact, there's a study being done. The University of Sydney is doing a study at the moment, and I think there's a study being done in the UK that's very similar, that will, when you're going to see a doctor, rather than having the big cuff put on your arm and looking at your blood pressure and your heart rate and checking things, they're actually doing some research at the moment. It's about a $6.5 million research project where they're actually focusing a video on someone's face, and from that, not just checking your heartbeat to see what your heart rate is, but actually checking your blood pressure.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? The things that they're coming up with. Amazing stuff. I'd love to hear from you. You got any gadgets that you've purchased recently or that you've come across? 1300 800 222. The text number 0437 774 774. We're talking to Matthew Dickerson this morning, small business consultant and tech guru.
Get ready for great new ABC entertainment in 2024. Maggie Beer is warming hearts with a brand new series.
It's music to our ears.
There's new seasons of Ladies in Black, The Newsreader and Grand Design's Transformations.
How incredibly intriguing.
And a new litter of cute puppies get to work in all new Muster Dogs.
You look after me and I'll look after you.
Can't wait for 2024.
It's going to be huge.
On ABC TV and ABC iView.
Yeah, 1300 800 222. If you want to talk tech with Matthew Dickerson this morning, text number 0437 774 774. Matthew, I've got a text here from Chrissy that says, I love my new torchlight with 3 strengths of light and has a non-plug-in charger on top for the phone.
And even little things like that, Michael, the technology as it's progressed for a whole range of reasons. LED lights, we know, are very low power consumption and can be very bright and actually be used for a whole range of different settings. So just something simple like a torch, or even when I go riding my bike early in the mornings, the LED lights that are on those now are incredibly bright and very low power usage. So, yeah, you just think, well, it's something fairly simple, but LED lights have made a big difference to portable lights.
I've got a text here from Hal, Matthew, which may disturb you a little bit. It says, I'm taking all this in and I'm not going to open the bay doors. Thanks, Hal. Let's get to the phones. Ace, good morning.
That's very funny, I must say. Can you open open Hal? Hal?
Hal?
No. Sorry. Matthew and Pav, good morning.
Daisy,
Question
Daisy. Yes, sorry.
Now, a friend of mine about 4 years ago bought a second-hand pair of Google glasses for $1,300. Now, where are the glasses in the world of technology now, Matthew? I mean, this is the thing I said, Trev, what have you done with the glasses? He goes, I couldn't get them linked and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And he just couldn't wear them.
Well, hang on a second. Ace, just let me ask. Matthew, what are Google glasses?
Yeah, Google Glasses were an idea from Google to be able to have basically the ability for you on your face, on your glasses, to have cameras, have the ability to sit there and have a recording, have a conversation. They even tried to get to the point where you could almost interact with those glasses and get it to go and query the internet, for example. You had speakers built into them. So people that wore them were known as glass holes, because you didn't really want to be sitting there having a conversation with someone with them, because were they streaming you live to the internet while you're sitting there having a conversation at the pub? Was that something that's happening? So you didn't know what was happening with them. So interesting. Just briefly on those, they didn't work out that well. Google tried them for a while, gave up on them. But Ray-Ban have actually got something that's basically the same at the moment. So they've actually brought out a pair of what they call Meta smart glasses, and that's exactly what they do. They've got some little speakers that sit over your ears. They'll play music via that. They can actually have a camera for still photographs or video. They have changed them slightly so there's a light on the front. So if you're standing there talking to someone, you can see that they're actually being used to record something right now. Again, it's one of those things. Do I want them so I can capture what's happening in my life, or do I want them because I'm trying to be sneaky?
Did you call your mate a glasshole, Ace?
No, I didn't, strangely. I just said, so how is that $1,300? Because I bought my Toyota Echo for $1,400. So effectively, you bought a pair of glasses and I bought a car. I said, so let's see who goes last the longest.
Yes.
Well, and I've got my Toyota Echo still, and it's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. The thing is, you can't plug your Echo into a USB port. That's the issue there, I think. Good on you, Ace. Thank you for that. I've got here, someone said the thief broke into the house. They had the drone detector notification thing, and the thief broke in and stole the drone. That's a joke. I don't think that actually happened. Margaret in Casino. G'day, Margaret.
Morning.
Good morning.
I just think drones must be absolutely magic. My grandson just bought one. He's got property with cattle and there was a cow missing. So he sort of sent it over the boundary fence, found the cow, got it back, without, running around everywhere to look.
Yep.
Checks the water troughs, checks the number of cattle in each paddock. We're building a house and he's doing progress photos on that from above. They're magic.
They are magic. The things that drones are doing nowadays is just incredible, Matthew. There's the horrible side of that as well, because we're seeing drones used increasingly in the theatres of war across the planet, which is a terrible advancement for the technology, but for other things, more useful things that they're using drones for these days, Matthew.
There's a couple of things that have made drones able to be used, and they've relied on a few advances in technology. Batteries is one of the things. The amount of power we can pack into a small and light battery now. Obviously, with a drone, it's taking off with all that weight, so you need a battery that's got enough power to do that. And then just the ability for that device to be connected to the external world with the advances we've had in telecommunications there. So in that example Margaret gave, going looking for a cow, you're sitting there in the bedroom, flying your drone via your mobile phone or whatever interface you might be using, and you're connected to that drone as you're looking around for this cow that's gone wandering, for example. So there's a couple of different advances. You couldn't have done drones the way we do them now. The flying technology was there, but you didn't have the technology with the connection and the batteries. If you go back only maybe 20 years ago, it would have been impossible, is a big word, but I would have said impossible to actually do a drone the way we do drones now.
Yeah, look at, talk about the farm technology. There's also, we get calls every now and then from the farmers who are out there seeding and ploughing, and they're using satellite navigation to accurately plough and seed their paddocks. It's amazing stuff, really.
Yeah, that's right. Self-steering tractors. People can sit back there, watch a movie, listen to the radio, whatever it might be, while the tractor goes in a perfectly straight line. But the efficiency you gain there, so you're not crossing over, for example, where you're ploughing your crop and saying, well, I don't want to have any part of my paddock that I've missed sowing the crop, and I don't want to double crossover where I go and put too many seeds in. So just that accuracy increases the efficiency of what you're doing.
Here's a bit of a conundrum for you from Ant in Mitcham. It says, if you ask ChatGPT to invent something that doesn't exist, you invented it, so could you patent it? Or does it belong to ChatGPT?
This is a really big issue. Who owns the copyright in what ChatGPT creates? And I am sure there'll be a lot of money spent to lawyers over a long period of time to actually go down that path. You're still in control when you ask ChatGPT for something. So if I write an article and I use ChatGPT for some research and the research was wrong, for example, am I going to be able to sue ChatGPT? Well, at this stage, I'm still putting my name to it, so it's still my responsibility to make sure everything I'm doing is absolutely correct, more my research is correct. So if you invent something, I'm not sure that ChatGPT is going to invent something, but you might use ChatGPT to look up data or look up information or find information for you for a background on something you're inventing. So at this stage, not being a solicitor, so I don't want to give too much legal advice here, Michael, but I would say that you're still the owner, the copyright owner, the patent owner in what you create, because you might have used ChatGPT as a tool. And let me give you an example. I actually write a bit of poetry in my spare time and when I'm playing around with things. I'm not a Banjo Patterson, but I certainly use things like Rhyme Zone, which is a website to give you some rhyming words. And I look at something like Banjo over 100 years ago. Some of the rhyming he created was fantastic. He didn't have Rhyme Zone to help him. So then when I write my poetry, am I cheating when I use Rhyme Zone? Well, no. Maybe if you use a dictionary or a Roget's thesaurus, were you cheating then? No, it's just a tool that you use. So it's a fine line there with ChatGPT.
Yeah, maybe you want to look at not rhyming. Matthew, that could be the key to your poetry success. Look, a couple of things here. Bought an emergency radio with an inbuilt torch, phone charger, solar charger, and wind-up charger. Just brilliant, someone says there. That sounds like a great little device. I lose my phone, not my glasses. How do I find it? Says Tony. Well, Tony, I think you need another phone, don't you, for that situation?
No. Now you've got the ability, if you've got a watch, because you can obviously tie in a smartwatch to your phone, and it's something my wife does. Sorry to my darling wife here, but my wife actually does misplace her phone on a regular basis, so she just looks at her watch, hits the Find My on her watch, and that sends a signal to her phone to actually make a noise, and then you can find it. So you have got that ability with a tablet or a phone or a watch. You can tie those three in together and actually find whichever other one's missing. If all three are missing, then you're in trouble.
There is an app called Find My Phone. I know that I'm getting my daughter to use it all the time to find mine.
Exactly right.
And so, yeah, there is. You can find ways around that one. But the way I normally do it, seriously, Matthew, is we've still got a landline. We keep the landline, as much as annoying because it rings all the time with call centres, but it's just to keep a connection to my folks, elderly folks. And I use that landline regularly to find my phone.
Well, that's the old-fashioned way. You just pick up the phone and ring your phone.
Yeah,
the
that's
problem
the
is a
way
lot
to
of people have their phone on silent mode, so if they do that,
yeah.
they're trying to listen out for that slight vibration somewhere, so it's a bit harder if it's not going to actually ring out loud. But with the Find My that you described before, you can actually make it make a sound even if it's on vibrate mode.
Kieran, good morning.
Oh, good morning. How are you, Michael, and your guest?
Yeah, we're good, thanks, Kiz. What do you want to say?
No, I just quickly, just thinking about glasses. I just got a new set of reading glasses, and couldn't find them. Looking everywhere for them. They're on my head, were they? Yeah.
The spec finder might be dangerous with that one, Kieran, because if you actually made a noise 85 dB right next to your ear, mightn't be that pleasant.
But the reason I was ringing about was I just got out of hospital and I thought this was just unbelievable. They released me. Well, I was still actually wasn't discharged from hospital, but I was at home. But they gave me a little kit and I could do my own. I had to do it 3 times a day. My own blood pressure thing.
Yeah.
And it Bluetoothed. And then I did me blood pressure thing. And the only thing I'd do was do me... And it all Bluetooth straight back to the doctor.
Straight back to the hospital.
Unbelievable.
How good's that? That's incredible.
It's just the best thing.
In fact, the medical technology is one thing that we could probably just about focus on a whole program, Matthew, because some of the things that they're coming up with now, you just think, wow, who thought of that? That's amazing. And yeah, how's that for a service? Be able to feed that stuff in, do it yourself and send it straight back to the hospital, saving a lot of time and effort. And it could be critical time that you're saving with that sort of technology.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting there, I'll be a bit pedantic here, Michael, sorry, it's actually going to be Bluetoothing back to the phone and then to the hospital because Bluetooth range is only probably 10 or 20 metres. But again, I understand what Kieran's talking about there, that it's using Bluetooth, but back to your phone and then back to the hospital. But that whole wearables area, you talk about medical devices, the number of things we can do with our wearables now, just the fact that you've got a wristwatch that can take your heart rate, you can use your wristwatch for an ECG now. Some of the wearables we've got on us and what they're doing and monitoring is quite incredible now.
It is. And not only that, the technology in surgery, it really just is amazing. Like I said, Matthew, we could probably do a whole program on that. Maybe we should down the track. Because
easily.
Every time you hear about it, you go, wow, what an incredible advancement. And clever people there are in the world that invent this sort of stuff.
Absolutely right. And even just the laser surgery, someone might have prostate cancer and having their prostate out. That's all done by robotics now just to make it more accurate. Not replacing the doctor, but actually enhancing the doctor's skills and making them more accurate. A doctor might have a steady hand, but a robot's got a steadier hand.
Even some of the nanotechnology that we're hearing about. So, look, that would be a great chat. Matthew, it's been a pleasure. Always is. Have a Merry Christmas and good to talk to you again through the year, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Same to you and your listeners.
Much appreciated. Matthew Dickett.
Keep up to date with ABC Radio.
Local stories.
Local news.
Local programs.
On your radio, on your mobile and online 24/7.
Get all the latest with ABC Radio. Anywhere, anytime.